Welcome back to Your 1230, the only podcast where our guests tell their story with the help of 12 questions in just 30 minutes. I'm your host, Mike Solitro, and today we are thrilled to be speaking with David Kafka. David is the founder and director of Caribbean Capital Group, LLC, and oversees acquisitions, investment strategies, and business development. David has resided in Belize for over 10 years with his family and is a broker owner for Remax First Choice real estate offices in Placencia, Corozal, and Hopkins. David, welcome. We are really, really excited to be speaking with you.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me, buddy. I'm glad to be here and excited to share my story with your audience.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And we are glad that you can share it with us. Kind of with that story, we start with almost a decade or more than a decade in Belize. How did you get there? How did you pick this is where I want to be and this is where I want to have the next chapter of my life?
I picked it because I just wanted to go on vacation, and I wanted something outside of a cruise ship, because they tell you when to be on the boat, when to eat, things like that. I like a little more freedom. And honestly, I picked Belize for the sole fact that it was English speaking, and I'm too dumb to know Spanish. So that's kind of why I picked it. And once I got here, just fell in love with it.
So I'm not going to follow up on too dumb to know Spanish. I don't believe that, but I would think our audience, they may not know that Belize is English speaking. What else, if anything else, did you need to know that this is where I want to be? Because there's plenty of English speaking countries, but you picked this one, and you mentioned vacation. But what was the underlying reason? Like, I think I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I picked Belize because it was English speaking. It's in the Caribbean, so it's warm weather. Just a beautiful area. I've been, kind of around the Caribbean, but also not because it was English speaking, but also because it was the British Commonwealth. So the laws and the rules are much like, the US and Canada. Of course, I was, as an entrepreneur, I wanted to look at property. And so I wanted something with similar laws than the US and Canada.
Okay, and that makes sense. So I'm sure you're spending given what you do with Remax, you spend a good amount of your time talking to people interested in making a similar move. If you were to talk to yourself back 10 years ago or before you were thinking about it, what would you like to have known before making the move, or what would you like to confirm you're right about this? What would you say you should have known, and what are you glad that you were right about?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it was a good market. I just didn't realize how good it was. It's kind of, the dollars per foot, if you will, per linear foot of waterfront is the lowest in the Caribbean and Central America. So if I would have known, I would have done it sooner, of course. And also just to be careful as well. There's no rules for real estate. There's no licensing. So, you, Mike, you're a certified broker in Belize to sell real estate. So you got to make sure you pick somebody that will show you everybody's listing, no matter who it's listed with, because we don't have a organized MLS system. And so I saw a lot of crooked people making money. So I thought somebody with some ethics and, enjoys a good sleep at night can really do well here. And most of my business is not selling, it's just educating. It's educating people on what it takes to buy, live, and move here. And then the easy part is selling the real estate.
Interesting. Okay, I love the ethical piece. It's always a good place to come from. Um,
Yes.
you mentioned that uh, coming into a market without rules is different. What were you working in real estate in the US, or what were you doing beforehand that kind of prepared you for this journey?
I've always dabbled in real estate. I was a firefighter in South Carolina, Charleston, and I started a landscape company. And I just always, I used my money to buy real estate, mostly land is what I did outside of my own personal house. However, I wanted to expand that just because, I had a lot of rules that I didn't like, from, planning and zoning. And I wanted something a little easier and, build and develop. And, when I stumbled on Belize, I was looking at Belize, Costa Rica, and Mexico. And I picked Belize, like I said, mainly because of the weather and the English speaking until I got there. once I got there, I fell in love with the people, the culture, and the food.
Very nice. What can you tell us about the culture and food for those of us who've yet to visit?
It's the people are super friendly. Everybody, it's a melting pot of people. So everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, green, purple, gay, straight, wealthy, poor, nothing matters. It's just everybody's accepted. Everybody just welcomes you. They get to know you, get to know your name, remember who you are. When I came back 6 months later, hey, David, welcome back. Great to see you and the family. It was just super cool. And the food is awesome. There's no GMOs allowed in the country. So there's no genetically modified anything. So it's all mostly organic, a little bit of pesticides if they have to, and a little bit of fertilizers, but mostly everything is all organic fertilizers. And the food just is a lot more nutrient based, and just a lot healthier for you.
Okay, excellent. And you mentioned being a firefighter in Charleston before making the move. If you were either now or anytime over the last decade talking to any of your firefighter colleagues or buddies, and you had to tell them your welcome to Belize moment, or listen to this story, this thing really encapsulates my time here. What story is that? Or what is your go-to?
I follow a lot about, micro and macroeconomics. And so when I talk to my fellow brothers in the fire service, I'm always talking to them about, it's all about retiring and then living off of your pension. And so many pensions are going bankrupt because they're not making enough money. And so I'm trying to tell them and educate them, possibly to take money offshore, or make sure you are in control of your retirement, not leaving it up to somebody that you don't even know.
Yeah, diversification is very important, and that can be difficult when trying to, let's say, educate, but work with a population that is familiar with a tool like a pension, because you're kind of brought up in the, I'm going to work 20, 30 years. I'm going to contribute to this device, this tool for that amount of time. And then when I'm done, and this is what I'll live off of. And as you referenced, that's based on the evolving economy, that may not be the case. Real estate is a great tool for diversification, especially once you get into different markets, international as well. How part of your bio is talking about overseas acquisitions and investments, and those things are anywhere from terrifying to people to, I just don't know what the first step to do. And you also mentioned being an educator. How are you helping people take that first step? And what strategies have you seen work over the last decade?
So what we do is we basically just educate, get to know them, get to know what their needs, wants, desires, and goals are. And then just kind of educate them. Belize is international investing on training wheels, because you are investing overseas, but everything's in English. Contracts are in English. It's British common law. If I was to go to Mexico and invest in Mexico, there'd be an English translation of the contract. But if something happens, the law is going to be under the Spanish writing. The English is just for my convenience. So here, there is none of that translation. The law is English law, British common law. So it's very similar. And it all goes back to, no matter where you're investing, you're not investing in the market per se, you're investing in the team. So you need to find that right team, because you can have a average deal with a great team and crush it, or you can have a great team with a poor deal and lose like crazy. So it's all about, having the right team and educating them on possibilities, what you can do with self-directed IRAs, or, the EQRPs and things like that, to help them take control of, just some of their retirement. And they don't have to be all of it, of course. We never want to put everything in one egg and, all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So it mainly just educating and just taking the time, getting to know what they want.
Okay, that makes sense. And just to put it out there, we are talking real estate and finance, but we are not providing financial advice for anybody listening out there. We are just two guys discussing things that may have worked in the past for people that we've worked with or that have seen. kind of in that breaking into a new market, especially one that um, you may you may have visited before, but you don't know the geography. You don't necessarily know this neighborhood, this investment, this the customs. How were you able to do it? Which sounds pretty seamlessly from both kind of a change in profession and a change in locale.
Yeah, it's what me and my mentors try to do is collapse time frame. So what took me 5, 6, 7 years to do, I'm trying to condense it down for people. So I came every 6 months for a month. And what we did is we just went to different areas. And what I wanted to do was to live here. So I had to pick a place that I thought was the next place where I can make money selling real estate and also where I'd enjoy to live. So it's kind of a mix. If you're looking for just ROI, that would be something else. If you wanted a lifestyle and ROI, that would be something else. So I did all this so I can explain the pros and cons of every part of the country as I see it. Now, I still recommend, let's say, Mike, if you come over, I recommend you hit, the top three areas depending on what you want. And you'll know pretty fast within 3, 4 days, whoa, this is too slow for me, or this is too fast for me. I want a little bit slower pace. And then we can just adjust it that way. So I never, like you said, we're not here to, give any advice or legal counsel or anything like that. We're here to just give information and what we've experienced and our understanding. And then it's up to everybody to do their own due diligence, but we help them and guide them to make them comfortable.
I really like the kind of where you started there, the collapsing the time frame, kind of making running from the start. Of course, you're going to hit some walls, make some mistakes quicker. The 1 month every 6 months, that's a good strategy to get to know the area. But I want to start there. How are you able to kind of speed up that process? Did you were you able to have the mentors in place? Did you find them, or how did you do that from the start?
Yeah, no, I really didn't find the mentors till I moved to Belize. So this is just kind of, I knew what I wanted, and then I knew that I wanted to sell real estate. And eventually it learned me to, with my mentors, I've learned how to do asset management for the syndication side or the private placement side. But it was just really just doing it, right? Hitting those walls. How did I go around the wall? How did I break through the wall? And that's kind of how I did it. And then the mentors just helped me basically articulate my story better and help me understand the micro and macro economics and what we need to watch out for.
Excellent. And you also mentioned when picking a place to live that you were looking or picking a place that you wanted a place that you would be happy living as well as one that provided a good professional ROI for you. And I think the big piece or the big takeaway there is the knowing the target, that sometimes we might end up in the right spot, but most times if we don't know what we want, it's really hard to kind of pinpoint those factors that will deliver the ROI for whatever experience we're looking for. Um, what factors did you have to balance knowing that I'm not just coming here for a vacation and I'm not just looking here to maximize my professional expenditure or what I'm bringing back in revenue? So how did you balance those, and what factors are most important?
Yeah. So Ambergris Key was really where my family wanted to go. At the time, I thought it was kind of peaked out. Was I wrong? I was very wrong on that. It still has a lot more growth to go. But to me, it was a little more fast paced. It was like living in Charleston, in my opinion, just maybe a little, 15 years before, or, 15 years before. So I ultimately picked Placencia. To me, it was the next best thing. It was where the puck was going, and I wanted to be ahead of the puck. So that's why I picked Placencia. And it was smaller, kind of small town living. Everybody knows everybody. Which has some pros and cons there too. But it was just a healthier lifestyle for us that balanced the ROI for business and the lifestyle investment where we were comfortable living.
And that makes sense. And then as you reference moving with the family, that not only are you balancing things that are important to you, how did you kind of weigh in what factors would make them happy, what they were looking for, and when they may not have all been in alignment, how did you work through those things?
We just took it day at a time. My wife at the time, she was a scheduled person. She wanted a routine, and I knew she would be on a routine. And I've been in Belize 13 years, over 13 years now. So when we moved here February of 2010, there was a lot of things we couldn't get. Pita bread, Greek yogurt, stuff like that, right? So she ended up making it. So we got to the store and made it. And it's so small, she went to the States one time and she came back and talked to the grocery store we go to. And she's like, do you know this thing called Greek yogurt? And they're like, yeah. And like, how about bring us some and try it? So they brought it. And then it kind of flew off the shelf. So majority of our tourists are, from North America. And so they wanted it and they bought it. So now you could get Greek yogurt, all the time here. And so that's just an example of some of the things, how we adapted. And, once you ask them to bring stuff, they'll bring it, and if it makes financial sense for them, they'll do it, and so that's how it was. And now, I mean, you can get pretty much anything you want, if you want Breyer's ice cream, you can get it. You're just going to pay for it, right? Because it has to come here on a frozen container, all the way from the States. And so it's so much nicer to eat, local ice cream for, a fraction of the price. But we just adapted and lived it day by day.
I think you're absolutely right. That adapting is the big thing when you are making a change like that in your life. That there's things that we're comfortable with, there's routines that we know and that we would like to keep, but when those are not available to us, we adapt. We find this is almost as good, perhaps better, and we have moved on in finding a better routine, if you will. So that story kind of helps illustrate that. One of the other things you referenced that I want to follow up on for sure is identifying, working with mentors, and then building a strong team. That's another area that people sometimes struggle with, overlook, don't do, or make plenty of mistakes and never get to where they can their peak or optimal outcomes because they don't have the right folks around them. How are you able to do that, and what have you learned in building a team that you probably weren't going to be able to accomplish on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I started out listening to Darren Hardy, the Darren Daily, and I was introduced to this thing called personal development and just fell in love with it, and basically from there, my mentors that, have been real estate agents, real estate brokers, and then syndicators that have raised millions and millions and millions of dollars. And, my marketing mentor, Kyle Wilson, who was Jim Rohn's business partner. We talk about the wheel and how we get people on our wheel and just take them around the wheel. So it's just, the best investment you can make is on yourself. And it's just mind-boggling for me how much your mind will take in. I'm just an average guy, didn't go to college. And here I am, doing it, in a country that I love and living a life that I love, helping people that I love, whether it's buying a property actively or helping people invest passively, to just diversify and help them make their dreams come true. And I couldn't have done none of this because the mentors show me that, don't think so narrow or small. It takes just as much work to buy one house versus an apartment building, and as long as you have the team together, you're in real estate with EXP, you kind of know, right? It's just the same amount of work to buy a house or buy an apartment building, a 1 to 4 unit, and the income is just substantially different. And so that's just kind of, I always recommend people just invest the time, invest the money, go to these classes. Don't pick the free ones. Pick the ones that actually cost some money, because it's not just the classes, it's the people that come to these classes. So it's just, I mean, there's classes I go to that I've been to 7, 8 of them, 9 of them, but I've changed and the people have changed. And being with, 200-300 like-minded people that paid $1,000 for this 3-day class, that's where the magic happens. You're one investor away. You're one relationship away from doing something huge. And it's up to me, to make a ROI out of that, not to use people by any means, but just if there's a relationship there, that's what it takes, to find that person. And if you click, you'll invest together, you'll have a friendship together, and you'll do a lot of stuff together.
I think the really big takeaways there, two that I love. The first one being that understanding the effort versus the output or the impact it can have when you compare buying one house, one property to a multi-unit or a different type of investment or kind of a different project. That sometimes we put our head down and we kind of just plow forward doing that thing, where if we redirect our energy or we build the right team, we have the right relationships. The second thing that you talk about is going to these courses and then learning who's there, seeing how you can collaborate, work together. The output quickly becomes an exponential figure. And we didn't work much harder. We just did something a little different. We used a different group, or we tried something kind of back to the routine example again, just a little bit differently than we had before. And I think that's really important. And people can be nervous, they can be hesitant, they can say, well, that's not going to work for me, or come up plenty of excuses to keep doing what they've been doing because that's what they know. But as you referenced, just knowing that if I put this in, I can expect this. If I twist it a bit, I might be able to get a 2, 3, 10x return for doing very similar work. So I think that's a great takeaway. You mentioned the wheel. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the marketing wheel is, you have different products and services to get people on. Like you, Mike, you have the podcast to get people on your wheel. And then once they come on your wheel, you can market to them, educate them, help build them up. You might have a newsletter that goes out. You might have, an open house that goes out. All those are spokes on the wheel for you, Mike. And that's what we have. I have, many different wheels, many different spokes on my wheel to help get people on there and then educate them. I'm not a hunter per se. I'm a farmer. So I like to educate people. I like to plant the tree and then just let it grow. And then if they're ready, then they'll come and, I've earned the respect for them to buy from me. And I just wanted to mention too, the comfort zone. I live my life where I'm always uncomfortable. If I'm comfortable, I'm not growing, right? So if you're nervous about stuff, you're always growing. Now you got that comfort wheel. If you're always inside that small comfort zone, then you're never growing. So you just got to get just a little bit outside, then your comfort zone will get bigger and bigger. And so, all my eggs are in Belize. I'm in different asset classes, but I'm looking at investing in the US. And so I was underwriting a deal for an 18 unit, and my mentors are like, the same work is for 144 unit, and it's easier to get the 144 unit. So that's kind of another example of just opening your mind and thinking a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I love the idea of the wheel there, that we each kind of have a different wheel. We've got a different system, different spokes to market ourselves, because at the end of what we do really is we are a brand of one. We start with ourselves, where if we are not delivering a good service, a good product, we're not trustworthy. It doesn't matter what company we work for, how long we've been doing it, what we're peddling, because we've lost them up front. So having so can keep it go forward, the reliable wheel, whatever we're doing it well, and understanding the example you give between being a hunter, a farmer, know what works for you, how you can deliver what you deliver best. And if you start, be uncomfortable, but if you're using methods that don't make sense for your skill set, for what you're delivering, it's probably not going to land with the right audience either. So I think combining all those things that you have it really has led to where you are, and led to the 13 plus years now of success and prosperity in a different market, different country. Kind of with that, changing gears, we talked what you did professionally in the United States. We've talked at good length what your professional background in Belize is. What do you do to relax, to have fun, or when you're helping others?
Spend time with the family. I love going on the boat, fishing, snorkeling, diving. It's a beautiful country, so much to see. so much history. We didn't talk about the history really, but there's a lot of history here. Architectural ruins. Well, I don't want to say ruins, architectural developments, where the Mayans were. Just so much to do. But I'm kind of on a 7-year plan. So I kind of work a lot and just take maybe 2 days off a month, plus just, 2 full days off where I'm, just spending time with the kids, going out, whatever. But we have half days and things like that. I live pretty freely, right? So if I want to take a half a day off, I take a half a day off and spend time with the kids. So I'm not saying I don't, spend time with my kids, but, it's just, I do enjoy what I do. And so I do kind of work a lot, but I just balance it with what the family needs when they need it.
When you find something that you like to do, that you're good at, that you love working with, that taking those extra hours or having the freedom to work when you want becomes a little bit easier. So that's probably the reasoning behind that.
Exactly.
You mentioned that you chose Belize because it was English speaking. I'm not sure a lot of people know that. What's another thing that most people don't know about Belize that they should?
Yeah, so it's it's home to the second largest reef in the world, the Blue Hole, which is one of the, what do you call it? The 10 wonders of the earth or the world. So it's Jacques Cousteau, I believe, founded it or whatever, and it's just a long, deep hole that's very popular for snorkeling and diving. We have one of the largest jaguar reserves. Over 30% of the country is reserves or waterways where nothing ever can be developed. So it's very sparsely developed. Fly fishing, it's not a beach destination, it's an outdoor water sports destination. So snorkeling or diving with the whale sharks around the month of June, July, August, going to the reef and snorkeling with the with the nurse sharks and stingrays. Just so much to do. Fly fishing, it's home of the Grand Slam. You can have a Grand Slam, which is catching a bonefish, a tarpon, and a permit all in the same day. It's kind of a big deal. So it's just anything out there for water sports, we have it.
Very nice. All right. Sounds lovely. I'm sure people listening to this, like I need to get to Belize right away. We'll end here on this. You mentioned certain food that you would miss from the U.S. Is there anything else that you miss or look back on? It's like, man, I wish this was here.
No, not really. I mean, I go back enough so I get, I can get what I miss. A good steak is kind of hard here. So I guess that would be my one top thing is a good juicy ribeye. So that would be the only thing really.
Well, you have good taste in steak then, because ribeye is the way to go in that world. So very well done there. David, where can our listeners connect with you? Where can they find more? How can they get on your wheel?
Yeah, so connect at CaribbeanCapitalGroup.com. So it's connect at CaribbeanCapitalGroup.com. And there's different free reports on there. One about how to find a good agent, why the top 1% invest in agriculture. There's just several free reports there for your listeners to enjoy.
Excellent. So we will post all of that. This has been a blast. I've learned a lot, and I love your story. I'm rooting for you to continue the levels of success that you've had and continue helping others. Is there anything I have not asked you that I probably should have this evening, David?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think we're good.
Very nice. Well, we will post all that information. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to doing this again.
All right, Mike. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.